Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. A lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's special live stream on what is going on behind the scenes in politics in South Africa. But before we look at that, for the record, please pray for farmers in the Mtuba area who are under attack this evening. Now, Loving Life on YouTube sailed through 100,000 subscribers just under 12 hours ago, and already has well over 101,000 now. Don't forget, next Sunday, the 25th of July, we will have a special live stream with Amelia and Winston performing live, as well as singing from artist Lynn Ward and special appearances from many of the 18 channel heroes and recipients of the special limited edition Loving Life graphic celebrating this milestone that they will be able to use in their graphic icon if they wish. Congratulations to the Loving Life family and community on achieving this milestone. Registrations on Loving Life TV are growing exceptionally fast, and I would encourage all Loving Life subscribers to register there, as this is the platform we are transitioning to with a large number of other South African YouTube channels. Tonight I'll be talking to Dave Gaybba about white monopoly capital and the forces driving politics in South Africa. To get us onto the same page, I'm going to play a few clips from an interview that Johan Rupert had with a reporter from the Financial Times in November 2019. Here we go.
So I promise this conversation's going to be lively. I just, not knowingly undersold. Good, right. Now, Johan Rupert has reinvented himself several times. He was into tobacco, and now he runs one of the top luxury companies in the world. He was on the right side of history when it came to judging where apartheid was going. He was a great friend, I think I can say that, of Nelson Mandela, and perhaps not a great friend of one or two of his successors.
No, one of his successors.
One of his successors, exactly. This is a little bit of precision here. So, if we're talking about precision,
I like the other two.
Yes, yeah. So before we talk about the bigger picture of the continent and where it's going and where there are one or two success stories, I do want to ask you about South Africa. You heard the president today. Are you confident in the short term?
You know, Lionel, when the ANC took over, when democracy came, they were totally shocked at the state of the finances. They had no idea about the debt. And if I recall the 6, 8, 9 years prior to the first democratic elections, and I compare them to the last 6 or 7, 8 years, we've been through that before. Debt standstill, crisis upon crisis. That one was inflicted upon us by the Nationalist Party, and the latest one by a rogue element in the ANC. And they managed to balance the budget under President Mandela and Trevor and the finances and under President Mbeki, and things were going well. So with the proper leadership, ethical leadership, things can return a lot quicker than what people fear.
How much time does the president have? I asked him earlier. And he's a practitioner of strategic patience, and you're a practitioner of impatience.
Well, I wouldn't put it like that, but in business, impatience gets you there quicker than patience. So I can't tolerate that anymore. And the president, in fact, I told him a story today that
This is
Gaynor and
President
I
Zuma.
were very fortunate.
Sorry,
because
President
of President
Ramaphosa he's
Mandela.
talking about.
And when he said, I'm resigning, I'm doing one term, because I want to set an example to the rest of Africa. I must say he did regret it later on. When he was outlasted by decades by some of his contemporaries. But so we asked him, so who do you want to take over? And he said, no, Mr. Mbeki. And I was surprised. I said, not President Ramaphosa. He said, no, I want the young man to go out and make money. I've said to Dr. Motlana, he must go and make money so that when he comes back to be president, he can not be bribable. Now, I didn't quite understand it in those days, but he said, no, I want him to go out to make money.
Legally.
Very legally, but
This is the final clip.
no, 3 months later, suddenly we got attacked. He said that I'd flown back from England and that I'd called the deputy president and asked him to come to my office. And it was all nonsense. Firstly, I'd kept about 4,000 students as the chancellor in the weeks leading up, so I was there. And but you know, Mrs. Thatcher once said to me, say what you think and do what you say. But she should have added, think what you say as well, because I then made a small lapse, and President Zuma said, you know, and then he pleaded, or he said to the nation, if you want me to go, I will go. So the real story is we were sitting with friends around a barbecue in Bahamas, and some Pinot Noir had gotten involved. So I added a little sentence, yes, Mr. President, on behalf of the children, please go. Oof, that set off the chain reaction. And but they were really targeting President Zuma. They weren't targeting me. President Ramaphosa. They so by association. So I haven't seen the president. Seen him twice in 4 years, 5 years, and we used to see each other quite a lot in the early 90s, mostly adversarial. He was the head of a trade union. And he then was an investor in MTN, and we had Vodacom, so we were competing in cellular and mobile telephony.
I'm glad that we could facilitate a meeting today between you and the president.
Well, it was nice to see him, yes. It was, but it's actually so sad that if you're a businessman, you can't speak to the president of your country. Yes. And it's been like that for a long time. Whereas with President Mbeki, obviously we were very fortunate with President Mandela. He adopted us like children. But with President Mbeki, we still have very friendly, cordial relationships, and he had an advisory board. And things started going south after he got thrown out. I mean, let's not mince words. And so the rot is deep, it's wide, it's up to municipal level, and it's shocking to see how quickly it can happen. But the fight back, President Ramaphosa is running a clean government, and the investment sentiment will get back. And
okay, there you go. That's just a few clips which gives you a bit of background to the area of white monopoly capital. I've extended an open invite to Neil de Beer to join Dave tonight. And if he is watching and would like to join us, please just say so in the side chat, and I will bring you into the live stream without any questions asked. Please remember to subscribe on Loving Life on YouTube and to register on lovinglifetv.com, the platform we are transitioning to. Now, let me get Dave on so we can have our discussion. Here we go. Hi, Dave.
Hello, Scott. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. You're growing a beard.
So, yeah, it's cold, man, and I don't have much hair, so I grow a little bit, yeah.
I thought it may be a disguise because it appears that you got a target on your back.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Well, you know you're doing something right if you have a target on your back, that's for sure. Now, tonight
Yes.
we're going to be talking about just what the heck is actually going on in South Africa. And you have some insights into this. I've just played the Financial Times video clip, a few extracts. I pointed out which ones they were going to be to you so that we could get that all in context. Let's start off with talking about Zuma. Tell us what is actually going... Sorry, carry on, Dave.
Yeah, if I may ask, that same clip you played just now, I basically just want to ask, first of all, as you can obviously see, Mr. Rupert has been very close friends with Mandela and, involved in Thabo Mbeki. And, even the discussion there, I want to ask the simple question, why do we even vote? Because it seems pretty predetermined who's going to be the presidents. I mean, since Mandela's time, it was Thabo Mbeki, it was decided. And then it's, I'm not sure if Jacob Zuma was ever part of the plan. They were very happy with his first term. But then it moved on to Cyril Ramaphosa, which obviously they're very happy about again. And so I just asked that question, why do we vote? Because
so what you're suggesting, if I can put it that way, is that white monopoly capital, to be clear, I'm talking about Johann Rupert and Nicky Oppenheimer are basically the people who are pivotal in choosing who will be the next president in South Africa.
Well, it sounds like that, listening to that clip and the close relationships with the presidents that we had, and obviously there was not a very friendly relationship between Zuma and themselves, but yeah, I don't know. It just really looks. That doesn't sound right, eh?
Yeah, but to be clear, to be the devil's advocate, what Johan Rupert's talking about is the corruption that took place under state capture with the Guptas. I mean, that is clearly an issue that brought Zuma down. Do you not think this is why Johan Rupert was unhappy about Zuma being a president?
Yes, well, it definitely sounds like that, but also the fact that obviously Zuma, like you obviously listened to that discussion I had with Neil, that Zuma broke away basically from the West and he was totally Eastern aligned, BRICS aligned. And that obviously didn't fit well with Europe and the US, the West as well. So, because like I said in that previous discussion and recording, he was very happy. They were very happy with his first term since he started. I'm not sure if your listeners can remember the second revolution that was announced under Jacob Zuma's presidency, and I think that's where things really went sour. And then, yeah, he mentioned a couple of other points as well there. Simple things about the interest rate of South Africa, for instance, and I see it an Africa-wide issue, is, I mean, the West, some of the Western countries, European countries, the interest rate is so low, and he mentioned the point there of Greece that they pay to borrow money.
Yeah.
I mean, but Africa was always suck on the hind tit. I mean, we always have our interest rate is much higher than the rest, although we are a developing country. So who determines that? And is it the banking system? Is it so? Yeah, there's a couple of questions that I raised out of that clip itself.
Okay.
First of all, the voting. It doesn't seem to matter if we vote or not. It's predetermined by the ANC and the connections there, and then the economic plan and whatsoever. I think Mr. Rupert must be a prophet or something to foresee, because it sounds like he reinvents himself. But obviously, like I said in the previous discussions, Mr. De Beer was on that same panel which he mentioned on that video as well, of the advisory panel of Thabo Mbeki. And if we always also take into account that Thabo Mbeki was the one that appointed that panel, that Neil De Beer got part of, and they rolled out the central banks in Africa. They set up the African Monetary Fund. They set up the African, Organization of African, AOPD, African Organization of Development Bank, DB. And all these basically cabal-controlled tools was set up throughout Africa, not just South Africa, under Thabo Mbeki.
Right.
African Renaissance plan. Yeah.
Now there are a couple of points I'd like to make, because to be fair to Neil De Beer, I think he's the only political leader at the moment who's basically showing a strength in these times of trouble in South Africa. The DA's leader, John Steenhuisen, has been completely missing in action. Dr. Peter Groenewald from the Freedom Front Plus, I would have expected him to be saying a lot more than he has. Ramaphosa is just a joke in the current situation. He's just not leading at all. He's sitting there at the back, kind of twiddling his thumbs and wondering what's going to happen. Whereas Neil De Beer has actually been very actively pushing for the political leaders to get together, have a peace summit, and sort this shit out. So to his defense, I think that he's probably the most active player in this. Now, you raise a very interesting point, and that is, with Neil De Beer, he's got an investment bank which is based in Mauritius, which does a lot of work with countries in Africa. So you could say, by association, he's part of white monopoly capital. Do you think this is what's actually behind his wanting to be the next president in 2024?
Well, obviously, if it's check in the recorded audio, you can hear he said this group of families came together, and it was decided that he will be the candidate for president. And like I said before, I mean, you can see this whole show of, stopping crime and doing all these showroom stuff to become the president. I don't see that. I don't see. I do see him pushed into that position, like I said. And I did ask the question with this crisis in KZN. I asked the question actually the day before the crap hit the fan. I asked on a video on my Facebook, where's all the politicians? Where's all the opposition or a unified opposition voice? There's nothing. And because I clearly followed it, obviously, step by step. And there was nothing until that day, and then suddenly here popped up one, and some of them popped up and said this is like birth pains, and it's like, what birth pains? Are we going to a new system as been planned, like I've been saying? Don't forget the involvement, like I said, of Mr. Neil de Beer on a very, very high level throughout Africa. I mean, he was that AODB. He was the first Director General under the African Union, and he was spearheading all of those things. So don't forget his position there, and then connect that to the recent information that came out via news media of all the European, British lords and politicians owning big companies and invested in oil and whatsoever here in Africa as well. So in my opinion, in my very strong opinion, and I can dot these all together for you, there's a very big network throughout Africa. And I do not see Africa or Africans or South Africans of all races and color, obviously, gaining from that. And I think it's very much politicized the situation in our country in a sense to keep us all fighting each other. And because the ANC is never going to give up power, just walk away. It's not going to happen. And the question that Neil de Beer was, like I said before, part of Mkonto where he was in the top enclaves of the Mkonto where in the ANC, and he was like he says in his own words, he was part of states and governments, and he ran African economies. Do you think he just walks out of the ANC, starts his own political party, and he declares the ANC enemy number one, and they never even mention his name? I find that very difficult to believe.
So what you're suggesting, Dave, if I may just summarize, is that Neil de Beer has been chosen by white monopoly capital to be the next president of South Africa. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not actually referring to white minority capital. I agree there is a white minority capital that exists. That is a minority white people with lots of capital.
No, you mean white monopoly capital, not white minority capital.
Monopoly capital.
Yeah. That
exists in a handful of families. Sure. I mean, there's no question. You can just go search these people. They are worth billions and billions.
Yeah.
And I don't see them doing much uplifting anyone in South Africa. I don't see them doing much creating opportunity. It's not about giving people jobs, because then they just work for you. You still control them. But I'm talking about creating opportunity. And I don't see these billionaires in these situations now where we have a food crisis in KZN. You see ordinary South Africans digging into their pockets where there's almost nothing left and handing out and helping people. But you don't see these billionaires, these network of billionaires, ever stepping up. You don't see that, and I'm talking throughout. The people must understand. I'm talking to white, black, colored, and Indian people. I'm talking to all South Africans. My people, my South Africans, and I'm your South African. And so because this whole system, it's elevated politicians to a level where there's no accountability. They're not touchable. You cannot question them. I mean, the questions I've raised over this since our first discussion on your channel, as like you say, put a target on my back. So you have to fear in this country when you raise the right questions. Why is that? That is not normal. That is not normal. Yeah. And so I do see this pan out pretty much as planned, and I do see the chaos plan. It's actually fortunate that on the 1st of July, I posted a video on my Facebook where I basically explained exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to create issues amongst races and cultures, and how it's going to affect the food security, and how that is also going to affect our neighbors. I clearly stated that on the video. A lot of people turned around and said, you are a prophet. And it's not being a prophet. It's just logic. It's just using our own intelligence. And like I always promote is using collective intelligence and not listening to all the fake stuff and the nameless messages and stuff coming through. Looking at actual facts, looking at trends, looking at people's comments and in volume. And so I can basically predetermine that. And that's why I questioned. On Friday night, actually, I made a comment on Twitter. There was a topic trending of Ramaphosa must resign, and it started falling down, and it went down to third. And I made a comment there, and a lot of people jumped in behind it. And the point was, some of the points I raised actually was he referred after the situation. It's not over, in my opinion. It's not over, but he explained after the situation that, we never expected this. We didn't. He lied to the entire country. Again, he just lied to the entire country and said, this investigation forces and they never expected this. Are we stupid? I mean, you lock up a previous president of a country. There was thousands of people pulling up to Nkandla, and there was calls for war, and then the president goes on national TV says we never expected this. That is
Hang on, Dave. Let's get back to Zuma in a second, but I just want to put on record that I have invited Neil de Beer, and I know that his PR guy Warren is watching. I have invited Neil de Beer to come and join us live to debate this aspect that you've just talked about. And I just want to put this out to Warren that, look, I will be absolutely fair and totally impartial during the discussion if Neil de Beer decides to join us, but that's up to him. Okay, now let's get back to one of the issues you raised, which is Zuma. Now, the question there is, basically, was white monopoly capital behind the removal of Zuma as president? Because it seems to be that way. Because what Johan Rupert says is that he made the stupid remark at some barbecue in the Bahamas, and when he had too much wine to drink, where he said that Zuma's got to go. And he said, well, then Zuma went. The implication was that he was the guy calling the shots. Now, do you think that was actually behind Zuma being kicked out?
No, I think it's a combined thing. Like in a discussion with Neil as well, he explained that they decided as a combined families. I don't refer to it as white monopoly capital. I refer to it as the cabal. That's what it is. It's an international thing. They sit on the World Economic Forum. They are all over. It's the same reset that we see implemented here that's implemented everywhere else in the world. So we should not be blind. Okay, so it's the cabal, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll call it the cabal. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, and it does not only exist out of white people. That's a fact as well. So it's a global government that controls us. And the way these people talk, you can just hear in those discussions. It's not, they are way above government. They're way above government. Government is the tool they use. But back to Mr. Zuma. And something that caught my ear in that same discussion with Mr. De Beer is when he clearly stated that the first term of Zuma was nice and whatever, even a lot of the white people said, this guy, he's got some of Mandela in him and, he can do good for the country and whatever. And then the second term is when they decided they're going to change things. They're going to change things. And the reason why he did mention the BRICS thing, but he also did mention, in my opinion, he alluded to the fact that Jacob Zuma might be innocent of state capture. And I'm not saying he's innocent of any corruption or whatsoever. But he did say Zuma it was a verskrikking. That was his words. It was the people that surrounded him, in his own words, was basically took over control of our country. And so those are the type of questions that South Africans should ask. Now, we locked the previous president up for contempt of court. And knowing the chaos that will ensue, because justice was never served until today. Until today, justice was never served. And they used the law to prevent justice. And that is a problem for me. Because And even with myself, with the information I want to release, it's like using the Poppy Act. By the way, it was a month before the Poppy Act came into play. But using the Poppy Act, using the law to prevent justice, that should not be allowed, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, clearly on the Mr. Zuma thing, I am. This is my personal opinion. He did threaten a long time to reveal this information, and I think it was a bargaining tool. But I do feel he was given the opportunity to redeem himself. He had a lot of, it was at his own place, he had a lot of people and protection around him, he had his family with him and whatever. And I thought that was the perfect opportunity for him to come clean with everything that he threatened. Because he also alluded to some of the, after the Zondo Commission, when he had a speech to his supporters outside, to the Chris Hani fact. You know, he also mentioned Chris Hani, and there was a general, and there was a bomb, and whatever. So he kept on mentioning these things as a threat to them, not as necessarily information to the normal South African on the street. But the fact that they do know, between Mr. Zuma, Mr. De Beer, they do know who killed Chris Hani. And South Africa deserved that truth, because for 27 years, people have been hating each other. People have probably been murdered for the killing of the ANC president of the time. I mean, that was a major thing. It almost caused a war in our country. So since then, there's been a lot of hatred. And I do feel Mr. Zuma should have then come clean, or hopefully, otherwise they must release him out of prison with the opportunity to come and make right with this country. Because everything is under the carpet. You know, it's just, we carry on. We just carry on.
Yeah. Can I just say something that's a huge irony to me in these troubled times in South Africa? And that is that when we look at CR17, which was a special fund that was put up to get Ramaphosa in as president, apparently a huge amount of money was put into that account. And apparently before they went to the vote, Ramaphosa was going to lose to Dlamini Zuma. And apparently a lot of the money from CR17 was used to buy votes with people who could actually get Ramaphosa into power. Now, that's all hearsay. I don't know if you've got some inside information on that, but the thing I find very ironic now is that because Dlamini Zuma is in charge of the special, what's it called, the cooperative development area. If you go to a state of emergency, apparently she then becomes the person who calls the shots, which is exactly what Ramaphosa doesn't want to happen, because you've got clearly two oligarchies. You've got the Ramaphosa oligarchy, which is currently running the country with his brother-in-law and other very, very wealthy people. And then on the other side, you've got the Zuma faction, which feel like they've been kicked out. What are your thoughts about the role of CR17, that fund? Who was behind it? Well, like, was it Monopoly Capital or the cabal, as you call it, who were funding Ramaphosa to get him in as president?
Like I said as well, what is the reason it should be a secret? I mean, we are South Africans. We are 60 million of us. We are the country. We are the people. So why should these politicians have this secrecy? You know, they elevated themselves way above the people to a point where sometimes they don't even know what's going on ground level in this country. And, you know, there's all these secrets and deception and stuff going on there. Why should CR17 be a secret? Why? Like I said, use the Freedom of Information Act and get it open. There's obviously no one. Scott, I must tell you this. I've tried everything. I've even tried Gerinel, by the way. I've tried lawyers, constitutional lawyers. I've tried. That's why I ended up going to Zondo Commission with this, because I see that's the only. It is set up to investigate state capture. And now it's very easy. People refer back and say, "Oh, but it's not on the specific points that they." Well, then they must open those points. Then they must expand those points, because this, I'm telling you, this is state capture. This is state capture. People deciding who our presidents are going to be. CR17 list. How many billions are in there? How many millions were in there?
Well, apparently it's something like 500 million rand.
And why is, like I asked as well in another video, why is the other politicians not pushing to get that open?
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, why should it be a secret? Because, like I said, we shouldn't actually, we should just stop voting. Because it's all predetermined. Mr. Rupert and Mr. Mandela sit there and chat who's going to become the next president. Imagine if that was the Guptas. Imagine if that was the Guptas. Imagine if that was any other business people. Imagine that this country would go mad. But because it's Mr. Rupert, it's like, oh, he's untouchable. He's so in control of the country that it's normal to us now.
Yeah.
It's normal to us.
Now, I just want to address, we've got about 1,000 people watching at the moment, most of them on YouTube, but we've got a large number also on our new channel, lovinglifetv.com. To those who are watching on YouTube, please do register on lovinglifetv.com. You'll see the web address or the address below the video. That is where we are transitioning to, because we've had enough of censorship city on YouTube. We'll continue to keep our channel open on YouTube, but we're going to be concentrating on our own new independent platform where we cannot be censored. And that is what is going on with big tech, unfortunately. Now, okay, so what we're saying here, Dave, just to be clear, is that Jacob Zuma was an unwanted reality in the leadership position in South Africa for the cabal, as you call it. Do you want to just give us how he actually got to take that position? Why was Thabo Mbeki basically thrown out and Jacob Zuma put in, if what you're saying is true?
Okay, from facts, I'm referring to discussion as well of Mr. Neil de Beer, because people should remember this guy played a very big role in the Mkhonto we in the ANC, and in the economic role in Africa. I mean, he was the president of or is maybe still, I'm not sure, but he was in 2020 still, the president of the World Bank in Africa, the African Monetary Fund. So he's pretty important.
We know he's very well connected with the World Bank. Yeah, we know that for sure.
So he's not just the guy that popped up at the school protest there in Cape Town and then now he's going to become a leader. No, it didn't happen like that. So out of his own mouth, I mean, he explained how Nelson Mandela was more aligned towards Palestine and Cuba and those countries, and Muammar Gaddafi, Libya, that was his friends. Obviously, Libya also got taken out. But he said nothing economically happened in the term of Nelson Mandela in the country. Yeah, people were ready to move forward and take the country forward from all races and of all sides. But then came Thabo Mbeki, and that's when the economical changes started. He clearly explains that. And that is when Thabo Mbeki was a bureaucrat, that's his words. He was a bureaucrat. He was not a military guy, he was not in the ANC even. He was a bureaucrat. He went to the UK for his schooling in university, or for his university or whatever. So he got trained on that side. And he brought obviously with him those policies. And those were the policies implemented. And then he said, okay, Jacob Zuma came in again, and he was completely aligned to the East. Completely. He didn't want much to do with the West at all. So it was all. And now Ramaphosa, he clearly states, is 100% totally aligned towards the West. And that is why BRICS has basically collapsed from a South African point of view. BRICS is no more existent from our side, because he wants nothing to do with that. So and that to me links up to the point that's been very clear throughout. Allegations and physical things that basically he said as well, that Ramaphosa is this. He got sent to make billions, and he was kept out of the firing line and out of the. Now the best part about this, I was young, I was 24 years old, and I remember they mentioned Ramaphosa as the second revolution leader, and I remember I still made a big issue about it. So it was always a plan. It was a 27-year-long plan. This one was going to become president. That one was going to become a billionaire. And I didn't see President Ramaphosa ever uplifting his own people with the billions that he made. At least opportunities or whatever. I mean, to own a business and to give someone a job is not. It's opportunity, but it's not an opportunity for people to become independent and to become. So he didn't create any opportunity in this country either. So I don't see any of so that was the thing, and he clearly explained that Zuma, everybody liked Zuma in the beginning, and they all also thought he's a Zulu, you know, he's a military man, he's aligned to the east, but then he changed, and that's when they decided. He clearly states that that's when they decided to change the country,
get rid of him. Now, look, I just want to say that it's interesting that Rupert says that Ramaphosa had to be made wealthy first before he could be president, because that way he wouldn't be tempted to be involved in bribery and corruption. Now, what clearly is implied there, hang on, what is clearly implied there, Dave, is the fact that when it comes to Ramaphosa's billions that he's made, the cabal were behind that. And so Ramaphosa is basically bought by the cabal.
Well, if you look at his businesses and whatever, it was not only in South Africa, he had a big stake in MTN in Nigeria. And at the end, just before he became president, or just when he started to become president or whatever, there was a big scandal at MTN Nigeria, which they pointed a finger to Ramaphosa as well.
Yeah.
So, and there were billions of dollars or something scandal, or billions of rand scandal there. So, yeah, I think the thinking of keeping him out of the limelight, let him become a billionaire so he won't be corrupted, I think they forgot the point of power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. Because if we see what happened in Marikana, it was the same type of response of oh no, sorry, nothing happened. Like what happened down KZN, it's just swept under the carpet. Nothing happened. He won't take any responsibility. There was no leadership. That's a fact. There was no leadership until the chaos hit, and we could all see it build up every day. And then afterwards to come back and say, oh, you know, we didn't expect that, and we didn't know what's going to happen. It's all nonsense. I'm sorry. Yeah. He's lying to this country again.
Because he was a high-up director in the mining company where that disaster happened.
Yes.
And he was also compromised because of his position within the ANC. Now, I want to go back to Thabo and Mbeki. What I find very disturbing about post-Mandela is that Open Society Foundation, which is run by George Soros, who is a communist and a socialist, and he's a troublemaker wherever he goes. Look at Europe; it's a complete basket case now, and all the Euro politicians are basically bought out by George Soros. Now, what happened as soon as Thabo and Mbeki got in was that his advisors were changed, and most of his advisors were senior people within the Open Society Foundation, and that's a fact. Now, clearly, the advice he was getting was, again, tied up with this New World Order, taking South Africa down a certain path. Do you have any thoughts about the role of the Open Society Foundation and George Soros in South Africa?
Well, I do. Obviously, I hear all the allegations, so I wouldn't like to share allegations which I don't have facts on, for sure. And I also want to state this in a situation like ex-President Thabo Mbeki, that this is why I actually say this, and I will say this again. Jacob Zuma implicated Johan Rupert for threatening to collapse the rand, right?
Right.
And we saw the rand shooting up. So why? I think we should, South Africans, overall, all South Africans should push to get Johan Rupert and this Mr. De Beer in front of the Zondo Commission. So, because that's where the answers lie. And then Mr. Thabo Mbeki, for instance, because his role, was it innocence? Was he overwhelmed by these people from outside? Were they pulling the strings and he had good intentions? It's possible. Although it sounds very much predetermined and pre-organized, but it is possible. And so these are the questions that has to be answered. And in my opinion, for South Africa to move forward, because we're stuck in this predetermined ANC decision-making rulership, and nothing's going to change. And these people have the control over them. I mean, it doesn't take much there's so much information available actually in public to prove this. Mr. Rupert just came out a while ago and threatened to stop funding to the ANC. And this was posted in mainstream media according to a mainstream media source and a source close to President Cyril Ramaphosa. So either they're lying or it's the truth, and then we have a problem. Because if Mr. Rupert threatens funding to the ANC, what level of funding is he talking about? That's like that afterwards.
Yeah. Well, we know the ANC are financially in real big trouble. Now, I just want to touch on the Zondo Commission. As far as I'm concerned, the Zondo Commission is just an expensive waste of time, and it's part of their strategy in delaying any criminal action against all these people who are clearly corrupt. I mean, they could have just, opened up dockets, but they cut down the budget of the NPA, or the National Prosecuting Authority. Look what they've done with the police force. They've taken 11 billion rand out of their budget, and they're expecting them to handle the chaos that's happening right now in South Africa. But just getting back to Open Society Foundation, here are a couple of facts that a lot of people probably don't realize. The woman who is actually putting forward or has put forward the document for Parliament to pass for expropriation without compensation works for Open Society Foundation. And her name is Professor Ruth Hall. You can find her very easily. Just type in PLAS, that's PLAAS. That PLAS organization is funded by Open Society Foundation. It works out at the University of Cape Town. And Professor Ruth Hall, you can actually look this up and you'll see that she talks about her role in strategizing expropriation without compensation. That's happening. There's no question about that. And the other biggie is this changes to the gun law, where you cannot use it for, protection. Again, the people behind the actual new laws related to that are from the Open Society Foundation. Now, this is the sort of shit that's going on that the average man on the street is not aware about. And I think it's absolutely disgraceful where you've got a communist socialist organization that are actually making policy for what is supposed to be a democratic South Africa. What are your thoughts about that, Dave?
Okay, just the first point on that. South Africans should realize South Africa is a football kicked around between systems, between the West and the East. And the people of Africa and South Africa are suffering. And that's a fact. Somewhere along the line, the fact of a world order or a new world order has become conspiracy. I don't know where that happened or how that happened. Because we currently have a world order. We have a world order, and we had many world orders before this. So if there's a change in empire, let's call it a change in empire because we had many empires before, then it's called a new empire or a new order or a new world order. And we see even our president, Ramaphosa, stated very clearly, we will forge a new world order. It's very clear. People can just search it and find it. So, and if most presidents around the world claim exactly the same thing, but if I say it and you say it, then suddenly it's a conspiracy. That gets to me. But so the fact that the World Economic Forum is basically running the world is at the moment, and not just them. It's all these organizations, all these massive organizations that basically controls the world. And I think this is where we have to refer back to John F. Kennedy's statement that the day that these people take over control, that the world will be lost. Basically, the day that when Wall Street starts running Main Street, that we have a crisis. And this is what's happened around the world, taking this to a more global context. I mean, I personally, this is my thing. This is why I get a lot of this information, and it's all factual and it's all news-based. It's not conspiracies or people's opinions. It's basically mainstream news-based, which I do not always trust so much. So I find you have to find the left and the right news, and then the truth is in the middle. So I spend a lot of my time going through these things and see, okay, first of all, is it true? Does it make sense? And then how they implement these plans across the world. And we as South Africans, we shouldn't be stupid looking at what goes on in every other country around the world, how regimes are changed, presidencies are extended for 25 years, or another one becomes a lifelong ruler. And we've been told, I mean, I've definitely been told by Mr. De Beer that we're implementing a new system in our country now. So and then we question, this World Economic Forum and these people, what they're, and the G20 and all of this, what they're saying. No, that's fact. It's happening in our world. We people, as unfortunately, just become very small in this picture. We are not relevant in this picture. We moved around like chess pieces and reduce if we need to be reduced. And just referring back to that same clip you played of Mr. Rupert, talking about Africa and explaining that Europe basically says, in my own words, Europe has reached the dead end because their interest rates are so low, they cannot go anywhere from there. They cannot really go much lower. So now it's like turning the focus to Africa, where we have really lots of opportunity. I mean, I've personally put forward to our government so many proposals, and I'm not saying accept my proposals, but at least consider proposals that is very logical and implementable to uplift communities and to uplift our economy and create export revenue and solve our immigration problem and everything at just a few basic moves.
Right.
And they would never consider that. They would never consider that.
Now, Dave, I just want to address the side chat for a second. And guys, please remember to subscribe to Loving Life on YouTube, and please remember to register on lovinglifetv.com, the platform we are transitioning to. Now, I want to get back to this World Economic Forum that you've been bringing up, because I put up a video about a week ago, and it's a new video. And what I did was I did a lot of research, and anyone watching here can do exactly the same thing. You just type in Jacob Zuma, World Economic Forum on YouTube, and you will see that Jacob Zuma spoke at every single one of the World Economic Forum Africa meetings. And next to him was Klaus Schwab, he's basically the architect of the Great Reset. Now, clearly, Zuma is not innocent when it comes to the New World Order. In one of these meetings, he actually says, yes, I support Agenda 2030, which is the whole basis of the Great Reset by the World Economic Forum. So Zuma is clearly in on the game when it comes to the New World Order. He's not sitting there on the side being some little innocent little bug. He's just as deeply involved in it as anybody else. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, this is why I actually say it would be a good thing for our country if they can release Jacob Zuma and put him in front of the Zondo Commission. Well, a re-established commission, or just the courts. Let's stop making panels. I heard earlier from Ramaphosa was talking about a panel and a this and a, it's always, there's no leadership, there's no action. It's always a panel or a commission, and nothing ever happens.
Well, there's one other thing that people have lost sight of, and that is that if Zuma's going to be behind bars for over 3 months, by then the Zondo Commission is finished. So he'll never be called before the Zondo Commission. Now, he should actually be, as someone in prison, taken in handcuffs to stand before the Zondo Commission and be forced to give evidence. But he's not, which is quite extraordinary.
Especially on the allegations that are all on record. I mean, those things were said and those things happened. So don't shy away from it. Let's get it out in the clear. You know, I'm not at all saying South Africa has forgiven before and we've moved on, and we can forgive again and move on. I don't fight the past. We don't fight the past. I mean, I want the other South Africans, the black, Indian, colored, or whatever. We all know. I mean, the Boers are the issue with the British. We don't fight the British every day today. We don't kill them. You don't see that. But so I'm not fighting the past and staying in the past. I'm trying us to focus on the future, because the future cannot be anything like the past, because it's not on any citizen's interest in this country, except for obviously the few that became billionaires and millionaires through this system. The future our future focus should be independent. So to reach something like that, independence from this cabal, independence from the Ruperts and the Beers and Oppenheimers, because they have always been, and people should know this, even in apartheid they've been in positions of power and in positions controlling government. That's why that that clip clearly states he's been reinventing himself. It's not reinventing. They knew apartheid was coming to an end. They went into the ANC pre-apartheid coming to an end, and they already established themselves.
So do you think that Neil de Beer was a double agent? He was, a spy for the ANC as like someone who would be spying for the cabal from within the ANC. Do you think that was actually his role? And when the time came right for him to say, I've had enough of this corruption, he actually then said, okay, I'm going to set up the UIM. Do you think that was his role actually within the ANC?
Okay. You refer to Neil de Beer as a double spy. I really question the fact that he might be a triple spy. Because, like I said, a lot of the things doesn't make sense. The fact that he can leave that and just walk in and start an opposition party and call them enemy number one, and there's no talk on that. I don't see that happening. But so I see his role was definitely the thing is he had a role to fulfill, and that was to roll out these economic policies in Africa that really actually benefited Europeans and Americans and other foreign investors in Africa. Because remember, we've always been taught that to nationalize our minerals will be like detrimental to us. We are too stupid to run our own minerals. But for instance, I worked in a mine in Zambia for 7 years. And that mine, from top to bottom, basically was almost South Africans running it. And I mean, the GM was a South African, and the management positions were all South African. It was a it was the flagship of that company. So we've been taught that it's like so detrimental to us. And then the ANC came in immediately, like, we're going to nationalize it. Everyone in the country, no, don't nationalize. I think actually, if you have good governance and good accountability and control systems, nationalization of our minerals and stuff would be so much in South Africans' interest. Now we have gas. We have all the gas now that's been found offshore. Yeah. That's owned by British America, BP again, and Shell, and these foreign companies. We don't own anything. We only at the moment own our land still. That's all. We don't own our politics.
Yeah.
We don't own our financial system, and we don't own our resources.
Well, can I just address something you raised, and that is the nationalization. Carl Niehaus and a couple of his mates had a press conference where they said, this chaos is not going to stop unless all mines are nationalized, the South African Reserve Bank is nationalized, etc., etc., etc. Now, I want to talk about the chaos side, because I think that this has been orchestrated from within the ANC and the Zuma faction within the ANC. I think that there's no question about that. Now, this is destroying the country, and Zuma is keeping quiet. He's not standing up and saying from prison, hey guys, stop doing this, you're destroying the country. He's sitting there and he's loving it. Now, clearly, Zuma, he's behind bars because he was in contempt of court. There's no question about that. And now he's trying to act like he's the victim, where the victim are actually people across South Africa who are going to be starving and suffering as a result of people clearly associated with him who are causing the shit that is going on in South Africa right now. How can you ever even consider this guy or anyone in his family to take up an important position politically in South Africa in the future?
And remember, Scott, when I talk here, I talk as a South African. There's no race involved for me. It's our governance system. It's the system that we actually have a very good system in place in our country, but it's not followed. We don't stick to the control systems, and there's no oversight and overview. There's nothing. So I'm just going to, on that point, mention quickly. I've mentioned many times before, every year we get our Auditor General's report. There's billions and billions stolen. And what happened? Does it get thrown in the bin? We don't have investigation units. We cannot follow money in this country. Nothing. It just disappears, and we stop, and we South Africans just complain. And they know if we complain. These days we complain on Facebook, and then it subsides. And then a new thing comes, and we complain, and then it subsides. Nothing is really ever happening. And this is where South Africans should wake up, to the point that we need to become leaders, everyone in his own right, actually, and then unite different races and cultures, and then we start getting our independence back. first of all. And then we can fix this country. I promise you, it's very easy to fix this country economically for everyone. And we can trade with whoever we want. We can. There's at the moment, there's issues in the world. So we have an opportunity to become very rich in Africa and South Africa. But okay, back to that point. I did see Duduzane Zuma come on live after this chaos again, or during the chaos, or at the end of the chaos, and go like, don't worry guys, this is a reset. Why are we always hearing about reset?
Yeah.
What is a reset? Tell us. I don't have a problem, and I'm sure every South African would not have a problem if our government approached us and said, guys, okay, we're going to implement a reset now. We're going to change from that system to that system, or we're going to change this. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to have to do it. But they don't. It's all deceptive. It's all hidden behind the scenes, and that concerns me. That is the thing that concerns me. Why is it so hidden? They all talk about the same thing, but okay, Duduzane did come out and say, this is like this is a reset, and don't worry, things will change soon. And a lot of the things that they say, I mean, Zuma is not saying anything at all at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
But a lot of they say is his children, his daughter, and they don't get questioned for that either. And it is stoking. I saw this thing play out point by point. Initially, it was stoking tribalism. It was the comments were directed against the Zulus, which I found very, very unfortunate at the time, really. I must jump in there quickly again with the thing about the Zulu King. I actually have lots of respect now for the Zulu King, because it was the first traditional leader or someone outside of politics that stood up and said, guys, and I believe strongly that might be a short-term solution to our issues. If a king or a traditional leader stands up and said, guys, this is not good. You're putting shame on us as a nation. And it was not, I'm not saying it was only Zulus involved, but you understand what I'm saying. I was hoping there's more cultural leaders following his example, like the other tribal leaderships, standing up and saying, no, stop this, guys. This is not, we all know there's no future in killing. Killing begets killing. More people will be killed, and more will be killed, and it's escalation, and at the end you sit with a war. That's how it happens. There's no killing. Violence is never a solution. We are millions and millions in this country. You cannot kill 5 million people or 10 million. You cannot. It's impossible. So all we'll do is we'll destroy the country, kill many people, and then sit with much, much bigger problems afterwards, and with starvation. And with starvation. And our neighbors will starve as well.
Yeah. Can I just butt in here? I've heard disturbing reports that doctors are getting arrested and spending nights in prison because they are out after curfew, even though they're seeing patients. And in the latest case, this doctor didn't have his paperwork with him, so they just threw him behind bars. And he's now got to go to a court on Monday, where obviously he'll be released. Now, while these doctors who are doing basically saving lives are being put behind bars, you've got Duduzane Zuma, Duduzile Zuma, his sister. They're going out there, they're causing shit on social media, and no one is arresting them. What the heck is going on? Especially when you consider in Durban, the police are actually breaking up these barriers that have been put up by communities to stop the looters coming in. And those who are actually manning these barriers are having their guns taken off them by the same police service, who was supposed to be in charge of this container, which had 1.5 million rounds of ammunition and thousands of guns, which just disappeared. Now, there's a lot of people suggesting that the Durban Metropolitan Police are actually run by the Zuma camp, and they're the ones who are instigating this chaos in KwaZulu-Natal. What are your comments about the role of the police service and the absolute bullshit that the fake mainstream media are putting out at this time about what's going on?
I have a very strong opinion about that. I believe our police force throughout the country is feared and not respected. There's no more respect for a police force. They've got a stigma around them. A lot of them are corrupt themselves. A lot of them are involved in criminal activities. And people fear the police. That's never good. That's why it shouldn't be a police force. It should be a police service. But so that's not good at all. But I find it's a very, very sensitive issue that should be touched, and I know it's very difficult to touch this, but I am touching it now. Because, like I said, the issue started with Mr. Zuma being arrested. And then some people started protesting. It's obvious. It's expected. You cannot lock up a previous president for contempt of court without standing full trial and whatever. And then just don't expect any reaction. He was the president. He had millions of supporters. So, but the point is, then the social media trend started going towards the Zulus, which I disagreed with. And then it started. Now here comes the sensitive question, which people must ask, because I see a lot of stuff directed at Phoenix, at the Indian community fighting. How did that start? There was looting people. People went to shops and stole stuff or took stuff for free. Let's call it that, whatever. Why did some of these pockets of groups of people go to the communities? Why did they go to Phoenix? Why did that people have to erect barricades and protect themselves? Why is that? Because it was not focused on looting. So there was something very sinister in my opinion, because obviously you would know, and there is videos available where people were standing with guns, where they're saying, oh, they're going into the houses, and then started storming. So the question is, why would you attack a community? Obviously you want a reaction, and that reaction is always the one that hits the media. The reaction of the Indian people, they don't show the initial issues that happen. Why these guys? I mean, why would any community put up a barricade and stand there with guns and batons? Because they were under attack. Yeah. And why would we focus on the communities? So to me, that's a trigger event to trigger more, which is the plan, to trigger racial, tribal, and all these issues.
Well, we know that most of the mainstream media, we know that most of the mainstream media in South Africa is owned by NASPers. And that's obviously part of what you call the cabal. And I just also want to say that the role of the South African Human Rights Commission in recent days is absolutely, once again, disgusting. You know, they have seen the attacks on small businesses and stuff like that, and now they are investigating a few shops in KwaZulu-Natal who refused to let black people into them because they were fearful that they might be looters. But now they're being investigated, those shops, by the South African Human Rights Commission with the suggestion that they were being racist and keeping a particular community out of their shops. You know, this is, and of course that immediately was all over the media in South Africa. So they've been very, very selective in their reporting, and they're causing division. They're the ones who are causing this racial division. What are your comments about the organizations like the South African Human Rights Commission?
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. There was absolutely no leadership during this crisis, not from opposition parties, not from the ANC, not from the president, not from any of these organizations. That is why I made a video and I said I'm furious, because it was the day before the big trouble hit, and till then it was silence. Ramaphosa only came up the previous night after his COVID speech, gave it 5 minutes and acknowledged the crisis. Yeah. And I was like, oh, where's the leadership? Where's the action? Acknowledging a problem is not action. We don't have leadership in our country. That is why I'm saying, according to me, it is up to ordinary South Africans to rise up to the challenge, stop expecting politicians to do anything on our behalf, because they're never going to do anything. They don't hold the corrupt accountable. They don't stop this downfall of our country. They don't stop chaos. And then afterwards, they always come with these cheap excuses and we all fall for it, like, we didn't know this was going to happen. Any South African can tell me we didn't expect this to happen. That is absolute nonsense. We all knew that there's going to be a reaction. We all knew it. So then to come and lie to the people and say we never expected this. And then during that process, it created so much tension and racial tension. And I never heard in this country so much tension between the Indian community and the black community, for instance. And it's a shame. It's a shame.
Well, I just need to put on record. I need to put on record that I stand fully behind the Indian community. I mean, I think what they did was very brave, and they certainly got those rioters, looters turning on their tails and running away. That sort of action has to be taken where they're destroying an economy.
Scott, I understand, but we must realize here, most of these questions has got two answers. Because, and it's all division, because now, for instance, and I'm not putting you down for having a viewpoint, we all have a viewpoint, but somebody that's been personally affected has a different viewpoint. Maybe there's a guy that drove in his car past the area and he was attacked again by the Indians. They've got a total different viewpoint because they see a different media of it. The problem that I have that we do not realize, it's South African citizens attacking citizens for a bigger game, for a cabal's political game that they play with our people's lives, with all of us.
Okay, tell me how the cabal are part of the chaos that's going on in South Africa right now. I'm talking about what I call the white monopoly capital. Just explain to us how they instigated this.
Well, it's very obvious. They have to implement a new system. They clearly, you heard the discussion we had with Mr. De Beer, the ANC has to reduce below 50%. But remember, we all have to accept the new system. It's not easy. That's why, and I don't think the system they want to implement can be positive to South Africa, and I'm honest if I say that. Because otherwise they would have come up front with it and said, guys, this system didn't work, we're going to change it and here's all the positives. But they don't. So they have to reduce, they have to restruct completely. This is all common public knowledge. They have to restruct and reduce and all of these things. So obviously, and to convince people, the majority of this country, that the ANC just suddenly fell out of power. It's not possible. You won't convince them. So there has to be this method.
I can understand, Dave, with the fracturing. I can understand what you're talking about there with the, maybe the people at the top who are causing the fracturing. Like you said, Johan Rupert said that unless Ramaphosa and his mob don't start arresting people, he will stop funding the ANC. So, yeah, that would have caused fracturing within the ANC. I get that. But I don't get how with the current chaos where you've got people like Carl Niehaus who's calling for nationalizing everything. You've got the Zuma. You've got the Zuma kids who are stirring and fermenting trouble. I don't see how that could be tied up with the cabal. They're the instigators of the chaos that's happening right now, and clearly Zuma supporting people high up in the ANC bureaucracy, especially in the Secret Service area. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. If you hear the allegations and whatever about this new system they want to implement, obviously they're looking at having ultimately a one Africa government, and these political parties must be falling away and whatsoever, and reduced and whatsoever. So we'll have coalition governments run in South Africa, and like I said again, Mr. De Beer explained very, very clearly. He said, if I, for instance, Dave, is a leader in the Western Cape here, and I have a veto vote. So the people around me that votes, it doesn't really matter because I've got a veto vote. So, and that's the only vote that counts basically in the end. And then he's the president. And obviously you'll have that system to a higher point running Africa and have a more stronger African Union and African government. I don't see that being possible very quick and easy. Looking forward maybe 2024, because it's very easy, Scott, to understand this if you look at it this way. If you offer a new system and you want to implement it, it's very difficult. Politics is a difficult thing. People have got their own opinions. But if you create chaos, and then you offer a solution, and it might not be the best one, but people will grab onto it with both hands. If enough people has died, and there's no more food left, and there's nothing in this country that's operating properly, every system and structure is broken, which is happening at the moment. The courts, the constitution, everything is falling apart, and then you offer this olive branch, everybody will grab onto it. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, look, I have to say you've just touched on really, to me, the hot point, and that is food security in the country, because I've seen videos of people standing in queues kilometers long waiting to try and get some food in their local Spar or their local Pick and Pay or whatever, the ones that are still standing. And apparently those are going to be targeted, according to audio tapes I've heard, on Monday, that basically this mob who are out there causing shit are out to go and take down any malls that are still standing. in KwaZulu-Natal in particular. And it brings me back to this point of that missing ammunition and those missing guns. There's also reports that in Mabeni, which I know is an industrial area, but there are a lot of people from townships who live in that area. Apparently that's where this whole insurrection is being led from. You know, the apparent, again, this is hearsay, guys. I'm just reporting what I've heard on audio tapes. Apparently, these guns and ammunition are being distributed to cause absolute chaos in the Durban area. What have you heard about anything about that with this missing ammunition?
Like I said, Scott, I know what I read on the news that the ammunition is gone missing. I do obviously have my own question because it's highly unlikely that something like that happens under police protection during such a crisis. It's just the chances of that is 1 in a million. So let's give it that. But I don't get involved in speculation if I do not have facts. So I cannot really comment on that. I've heard a lot of what I don't like in South Africa is you get a lot of voice recordings. There's no name, date, or rank or anything with it. It's just this fear. So there is a lot of fear mongering going on in this country. And there's also a lot of truth. So we need to sift out between the two. And I prefer to build intelligence on my own I would keep that in mind, but then I'll find facts. And if it doesn't fit in with those facts, then I'll rather steer clear of it because people are panicked. Remember, like I said, everything around us in this country at the moment is panic. It's fear and panic. It's like the pandemic, the vaccine. Everything is division, everything is fear, everything is panic. And it's the same thing. We must all know there's a war coming. And this has been going on forever. We've been living in fear for ages. So on that specific issue, I cannot say something. I hope and trust that the Zulu monarchy, for instance, steps in. I really do. I think the people are really tied to their culture. I think that can be helpful. I really think that can be a short-term solution for the country. But I want to mention this as well. I just want to touch on this. Remember, this land issue has been building up for years, for 27 years. Let's be honest, for 27 years. And people should start thinking now. Since 97 or something, they started buying up farms. There's been a lot of allegations and a lot of calls actually for government to say, show us all the farms you have in hand. There's some information leaked to the media that came out as well that government sits with a lot of farmland in hand as well. So remember, farmland means one thing, food security. Okay, at the moment in this crisis. So now government's bought out all this land. Julius Malema stands on the podium and shouts land, which is understandable if you want to correct issues of the past, to give people land. But he doesn't want to give people land. He wants all land to be owned by government.
Yeah, nationalized.
And my question, why is that? And then you must remember on the same point, the same land issue touches the cultural land. The Zulu land, the other cultures' land, which they also have in hand, that touches that as well. You can't make a national policy and exclude a certain culture. You cannot, because then you create chaos again. Yeah. So land issue is important, and I believe it's important to the Zulu nation as well. So this is the situation, and I personally do see solutions for the land issue. I see it's just never been implemented. It's been used for division.
Yeah.
Remember, if there was a land solution, if there was economic growth and inclusion and all of these things in our country, we wouldn't have so many political parties fighting each other. We shouldn't have all these issues, and they wouldn't have so much control over us. That is a fact. So if you don't divide the people, you cannot control them. So in my opinion, there's much land available in government's hands, and I've raised these points. I've asked that my municipality that gave Eskom 2.5 billion rand worth of agricultural land. So if that one municipality sits with 2.5 billion, and that translates to thousands of 2-hectare plots, for instance, right. Thousands. So if you have that municipality and other municipalities in the country sitting with the same, you take the land already in government hands, and you take foreign-owned land. There's big corporations, there's massive corporations owning land in South Africa. So then we can find a solution, but they don't want to find that solution because that will not racially divide us, and then they can't control us.
Well, I have to say also, Dave, that the problem that municipalities have today is that they're bankrupt. So they might well sell off all these lots, but then how do they actually put in the infrastructure to support them, because they haven't got any money? And that's a huge problem. But I want to get back to, I just want to get back to something here. And just for everybody listening, we've got about 1,000 people watching on the main YouTube channel, and we've got about 100 plus on the Loving Life TV channel. First, guys, please remember to subscribe to Loving Life on YouTube, and please register on lovinglifetv.com, the platform we are transferring to. Now, I want to touch on these audio tapes that I released yesterday in a video. Now, I'm in a very privileged position because I don't live in South Africa. I've been covering South African news now for years, and I've got over 100,000 subscribers. 70% of them plus live in South Africa. Now, if I lived in South Africa, I couldn't be releasing those audio tapes because the government would then arrest me for putting out fake news. Now, I was stuck between a rock and a hard place with these audio tapes. Do I just sit on them and pretend they don't exist? Because remembering, I spend hours every day going through WhatsApp, and I came across all these different people on audio saying exactly the same thing on different WhatsApp groups. And that kind of spells out an issue, that it appears that there is a thread of truth in what they're saying. So I decided to actually publish those audio tapes with a couple of videos, and you can see it on lovinglifetv.com or on YouTube. It's called Alert, and you can listen to that. Now, why I say I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place is because if I just sat on those and said, no, I'm not going to say anything, and then on Monday this happened, then I would be feeling terrible. And that's why I said clearly in the video, I said unsubstantiated, but at least it gives people 48 hours to prep, make sure that they've got a plan B in the event that this sort of insurrection happens in their area. So, it's a very difficult thing for me to do. As I say, I'm in a privileged position because I don't live in South Africa, that I can actually do this. Now, that's the reason I put this information out there, not to cause fear and whatever in the community, but just to alert them to the fact that this is being said on social media.
It is, and obviously you get a couple of that stuff. I'm pretty much fighting, and that is, I'm going to be very straightforward. I am fighting the political parties, like most of them, all of them, and I'm fighting this cabal. That's a fact. I make no, and I'm not fighting any of my people in this country, of our people in this country, no matter what culture and race. I think we've all been deceived. We've all been led around the bush, and all the division is created. But I find it difficult, Scott, if there is no connected detail on it. If it doesn't say, I am Constable so-and-so, and we are expecting issues in this region tomorrow. Because there is a lot of fake news going around. There's a lot of fake stuff, and it creates fear, and that sets on a panic buying. And a bank run, for instance, people will draw cash. And so that sets on new problems again. And that's why I try and refrain from it. Until people should know this and keep it in the back of their minds, but they shouldn't run amok with this, because that creates new problems again. And our problem at the moment, under such sensitive conditions and tense conditions, is the smallest trigger event can trigger the next. And this is where we need to be careful. This is why I'm begging, basically. I'm begging South Africans. We need to unite against this. We need to unite as a people, because we all have a future, which we sometimes don't see now. We only think about now. And we only look at the problems now. But we have a future for our children, and we have a future for ourselves that we're going to have to live through. We cannot destroy our country. We cannot destroy the infrastructure. We cannot destroy the food supply. That is number one. We all starve. And then nobody wins. Who wins then? And it's not as if we saw very quickly now in the KZN situation how on time our food supply is. So you break the system, you break the chain, and it's gone. then there's nothing.
Let me just say to you, you're probably not aware of this, Dave, but there are some very credible sources who are suggesting that right now, tonight as we're talking here, farmers in the Tuba area are under attack by these same people. So look, there are hotspots in South Africa where things are happening, and one has to be aware that this is not, what happened last week is not the end of the story. There's going to be stuff still happening. So people need to prep. They need to safeguard their families. There's no question about that. And that is something that they can't let their guard down. Now, let's just move on from that.
I just want to make a last point.
Please go ahead,
Sitting ducks, right? Do what we do in our community. We don't have the issues here yet. We're obviously in the West Coast area and whatever. But we've already rallied community people of all races and backgrounds. We've already rallied up groups and said, if this happens, we're going to, the idea should be, we are 60 million people in the country, and the ones causing the chaos is maybe 100,000, maybe 200,000. But it's not the majority of the people. So what we've seen in this country is some shops and some malls has been surrounded by people, by normal concerned citizens that outnumber the protesters. So that is, in my opinion, a much better solution than fighting fire with fire. Rather, rally the people in numbers, in massive numbers, and just protect the food security.
Well, I think a very simple answer, Dave, I think a very simple answer for any shop where they've got tiled floors or something like that is to have half a dozen bottles, big bottles of oil. And if you see trouble coming, you just pour that out where the entrance is. I've seen some hilarious videos where you got these guys trying to loot a shop, and they poured the oil on the entranceway, and they're slipping and sliding all over the place. And those shops were left alone because they couldn't get in because they kept on slipping on the oil. So there's some very clever and simple ways to actually fight back against potential looters.
I like that. That was really, the guys who came up with that was really clever. I think it'll be used more in future.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, okay, now we've talked about the cabal, and you've talked about these 9 families who are apparently members of this cabal who apparently run politics in South Africa. Do you have a message for the cabal?
I do actually. I don't think they realize this yet, Scott, because remember, like I said, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And money and power give them a sense of control, but that is short-lived. I believe the time has expired for their influence and control in our country. And very, very soon, more South Africans are waking up to this fact every day. So I would rather, if I'm them, come out and redeem myself in various forms, in explanations to this country, and in physical financial support to the people suffering in this country, because I don't see them ever doing that. It's all milking the country and taking it outside, so they can sit and drink in the Bahamas with their rich friends. I don't think you guys are doing anything for the country, ever. We don't see it. Creating, you have companies that you run with that you make money off of cheap labor, let's be honest, of cheap labor. So don't say you're giving job opportunities. Give the people real opportunities. Give the people real opportunities. Help to uplift this country. Not keep it poor in control so your friends overseas can come in and invest in a cheap country. That's not what we need. I can promise this country, South Africa can become one of the richest countries in the world if we do this right. Not just one race or one culture. Everyone. Everyone can have proper schooling, proper housing, water supply, the things that we implemented government for to make sure that we have, and not steal the trillions of dollars with the cabal friends. That is why we implemented government, to serve the people.
Right.
So their control over this, the cabal, and I'm really talking to them straight on. I have warned already before the discussions that we had with Mr. De Beer. It might be a very good time to reconsider their position in South Africa, because we will, and I've emailed this to our government as well, very soon we will declare our independence. South Africa needs to redeclare our independence because we are not independent. And then we decide from there. And the government can be run by multiracial government with righteous people and good leaders, not chosen by politicians that were pre-elected by this cabal already.
You're talking about the Singapore model, meritocracy, where people who've got the right qualifications get the job, as opposed to friends and family. Yeah, okay.
Why not, if you have a minister of health, why don't you have a qualified health professional of any race in that position? But you keep on taking a minister, you put him in a position, they make a mess out of it. They make a mess. That is detrimental to the country. And then you move him to another portfolio. And then somebody else come and mess that up further, so you can't blame a specific person ever. And then they make a mess of this portfolio. So that's the problem we have. The problem we have, we don't have young blood in our government. We don't have people with a vision in our government. We've got people from years and years back that were revolutionaries, and they're still stuck in a revolutionary mindset. They still blame, if we're honest to ourselves, South Africa, if we blame apartheid for many things, then we should also blame the 27 years of black rule. Because many, many things went bad in this time as well.
Yeah.
So we cannot be selective, racially selective. We must be honest to ourselves. What is the future? What have we learned out of apartheid? What have we learned from 27 years of revolutionary rulership and cabal-controlled rulership? We've learned lots, and that should be taken forward. So yeah, that message is clear to them. And I'm not really going to fiddle with Neil de Beer and Johan Rupert. South Africa must just join hands and say, let's bring these guys in front of Zondo. Klaar. With Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma and all of them. Because clearly in that clip, Johan Rupert states as well, even Mandela thought they will all be corrupted. That's a pretty negative statement, actually. And only Ramaphosa will not be corrupted. But I think power corrupted Ramaphosa.
Well,
I think so. Because
I just want to raise something that a lot of people probably don't know. And again, it's because I spend so much time researching South Africa that I happen to know these as facts. Taxis in South Africa can have 100% occupancy, and they've had that now for a long time. One of the biggest taxi owners in South Africa is Johan Rupert. Now, isn't that interesting? Livestock auctions are the only auctions that have not been affected by the lockdown. All the other auctions have been. You can go to a livestock auction in South Africa. Guess who's big on livestock auctions? Cyril Ramaphosa, because he's got these cattle that come from, I think it's Uganda or Kenya, with these big horns, and he's sort of like building his stock from triple B, double E. Well, he's a beneficiary of triple B, double E. So you clearly got people who are benefiting from the system they've put in place, who are actually making sure that their lifestyle's not impacted by the lockdown.
Scott, the sad part is all the billionaires across the world, actually, but in our own country as well, became richer out of COVID-19 while people became poorer.
Yeah.
To me is unacceptable. That to me is unacceptable. I mean, and I need the people. A lot of people questioned me before. A lot of people questioned me on Twitter and on Facebook and whatever, because I threw it pretty open. They can go on there and see all the stuff that I post. I'm not scared of my fellow countrymen. I'm not scared of black, colored, white, Indian. Why should I be?
Yeah.
This is our country. We are fellow citizens. We lived together for hundreds and hundreds of years before this political system came in here. So why should I be? All I want them to see is the truth. And this is why I choose not to get involved in any way politically. Yeah. Some people phone me today, for instance, that were involved with different political parties, and they walked away and they're like, yeah, but the people are attacking me now because of this and because of that. Luckily for me, I haven't been involved in that because I chose I'm not going to get involved in this division system. I'm not, ever.
Yeah.
So that leaves the only scrutiny. The people can scrutinize whatever I say, whatever I do. They can take whatever I say and they can search it and find the facts. I'm not here to deceive my fellow countrymen. Yeah. I'm not here to deceive or to change our future to a white or a black or a colored rule or anything. No, it's illogical to do that. I'm here to, for myself, I as a citizen sit here and I see all these facts and I go like, isn't there a better way? Are we stupid? We're so misled and pinned against each other and divided that we don't even see the truth anymore. But yes, there's definitely people scoring in a big way out of this, the lockdowns, the pandemic, whatsoever. Lots of poor people are losing in a bad way.
Yeah.
Really, and this is across racial lines. And obviously it will affect the majority population much worse, because there's really much more of those people suffering, and in our population as well, in the white population, millions of people are suffering, really, and actually in every South African is suffering either economically or emotionally, or has lost someone to death or whatever. Everyone's suffering. Now, on top of that, you got these cabal players just playing chess with the people's lives and controlling everything, and see us fighting and killing each other, and then coming on live as a president and lie to us and say we never expected this.
Yeah.
Come on, we need seriousness, people. We need to look forward. Really, I wish there was a way, Scott. I swear to you, I wish there was a way in this country that me as a white man could tell the story to the black people, and they would accept it and not see it as it's either politically motivated or deception or why?
The trouble is, you've got the Julius Malemas of South Africa who are causing so much division between the races. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Look, I think we've pretty well covered the subject we needed to cover tonight, Dave, and I just want to thank you once again for coming on. Is there a message you would like to give? We've got about 1,000. We've got well over 1,000 people watching the live stream at the moment. Is there a message you'd like to give to them and to other people who might watch this video later?
Yes, definitely, Scott. Just the closing message is, I ask the people, if you are religious, a believer or not. I believe in God totally. I'm not involved in churches or whatsoever. This is my personal choice, but I believe 100% in God. And but even if you don't, if you look around you, does this system that we have and the effects of this system look righteous in any way? That our country and our continent is totally milked for years and years on end, and we left fighting each other. And to overcome that, we need independence. There's no other way. And I ask the people to go on their knees and pray. Pray to God to bring healing to our country. We need healing. We haven't had healing because it's been taken away from us. Even after 94, it's been taken away from us. And new issues has been created to make us fight and murder and kill each other for nonsense. So go on your knees. Talk to God. Ask Him to help us through this. Ask Him for solutions, not more problems. There's no person in this country, and there's no racial or cultural group that can make it on their own in this country. Not with our setup. We are, in my opinion, we are very diverse, which is a very good thing. People should start clinging to their cultures. Like I said on a message earlier, start clinging to your culture. There's nothing wrong with a Zulu clinging to his culture, a Xhosa clinging to his culture, a Khoisan, a Boer. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not promoting tribalism, but I'm saying cling to your culture because it's been taken away from us for some reason. We must feel guilty for being white. I must feel guilty for being a Boer. I will not. I cannot. Because that makes me no one. And it's the same for all of you. Yes, we're living in the 21st century, and yes, we have all this technology, whatever. But that shouldn't change who we are as people, as human beings, and as cultural background people. I'm not forcing my culture down on anyone. I don't expect them to do the same with me. But let's just work together. I'm sure there's solutions. If we put our minds together, especially in our diversity, we've got different way of doing things and thinking. That is actually a wealth of knowledge, and let's call it collective intelligence, like I say. Because trust me, out of that collective knowledge can only come good ideas. And that's a fact.
Right. Okay, thank you so much, Dave. And look, I just want a totally different subject. I just want people who are watching to know that there is a very good option for combating COVID-19. And just for someone who does this, I take vitamin C. I have 1,000 milligrams a day of that. I take zinc. I take 50 milligrams a day of that. And I also have vitamin D3. And I take 4,000 IU of vitamin D per day. Hang on, let me get it around the right side. And that is a great way of building up your immune system against the COVID terror. Just saying, guys, just consider that. Alrighty, look, Dave, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. It's a shame Neil De Beer decided not to come on. We gave him the opportunity to come in and debate you on a couple of things. But look, have a great evening. And for everybody who's joined us tonight, I hope that you've learned something from the discussion we had tonight. And certainly you raised some very, very good points, Dave, I have to say. And please feel free to share this video with family and friends or people who might have an interest in politics in South Africa. I'm going to leave the side chat open for a few minutes so people can say their goodbyes. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, and most nights at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, we have a live stream here on Loving Live TV. And next Sunday, the 25th of July, we're going to have a very, very special live stream. We're going to have a celebration of hitting 100,000 subscribers on Loving Life on YouTube. So please come and join us. We're going to have singers, we're going to have channel heroes who'll be coming on and having a chat to them. We've got a huge community and family here at Loving Life, and please, if you're new to the channel, come and join us, be part of the community. Take care, and I'm going to sign out now, and we will chat to you all tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time. And as I say, I'll leave the side chat on for a few minutes so you can say your goodbyes or have a bit of a chat.